disheartening. And what's fascinating, that through all the different years of practicing my own nutrition private practice, and after having all that advanced training and just kind of seeing how things are playing out, I see repeatedly the same things. Typically you do that, you see the same things happen over and over. And a lot of times, here's what's happening is inflammation is the underlying condition. So now we know heart disease is inflammatory, diabetes is inflammatory, obesity is inflammatory.
And welcome to another episode on Carpe Diem Living the Podcast. I'm your host, Shane Gitmed, and today we are in Pennsylvania, East Coast, with Miss Claudia. And we were chatting so much before this recording, and I have to say I'm so excited to have Claudia here, and we have just a lot of knowledge to share. So Claudia, tell us about your background with the holistic field and just what brought you here.
Well, thanks so much, Shane, for having me on your episode. I'm super excited to join you. I've always loved food. And when I learned back in high school, when I took a nutrition elective class, that, all the times my mom told me this is healthy, come eat it. And actually nutrition was at the core of food, that it had a purpose. I just fell in love with it. I just was super excited that, food didn't only taste good, but had a function. To me, that was amazing. So that really sparked my interest in nutrition back in high school as a freshman. And then I ended up, studying it. And really my goal was to use nutrition in our life every day and helping the body stay healthy. So I always had an interest in, health, education, nutrition, and helping people. That was just always my natural, passion. After, working in the field in different venues, I've done everything from work in HIV clinic, outpatient HIV clinic, to work for a large health insurance company, to work in long-term care for 10 years. I just was disheartened with the way that, nutrition was not used to the capacity that I knew it could be used for. So I really became disheartened when my father, while I was working in long-term care, during that time, my father actually became ill, and I had seen how he went downhill. And when I tried to understand, how could this be? When you see your parent go downhill and they're always invincible to you. And I knew he was still young. He had amazing genetics. So he had a good diet. My mom cooked everything from scratch. Everything. And he ate really healthy food. I couldn't figure out why at the time, trying to figure out what's going on that he would get this ill this early in life when we have amazing genetics and, his father lived longer and that kind of thing. So I was trying to figure it out. And I just was really, really so disappointed in the healthcare system when I saw my father's health go downhill, and it was one medication after another. I think I counted 15 meds at one point before he passed. And I thought, oh my gosh, he's getting worse. He's had so many surgeries. His quality of life has declined. This is not my dad. He's not the vitality, full of, energy and well-being that I know my dad to be. And so it really hurt me to see him go downhill. And by nature, I've always been, a health advocate to, want to help people nurture and help them figure out what's going on, take care of themselves. So it really upset me to see him that way. And it really actually was quite depressing when he passed, that I couldn't, for many, many months, it took me a while to try to, get my bearings and just really regroup and figure out, okay, what am I supposed to do with this? Because to me, he didn't have to pass. It was just too young for me. And through that pain and grieving process, I just realized, I need to pursue studying functional nutrition, functional integrative nutrition. So I happened to come across the Academy of Functional Integrative Nutrition, co-founded by Dr. Sheila Dean, amazing person in Florida, and they were just launching their first program that year. So he died in 2012. I came across this program, I think in 2015, I believe, around that time. So I just decided to start studying and becoming more specialized in functional nutrition. And that's really why I went to school, is even though I had my undergraduate degree in bachelor's nutrition, pursued a master's degree in nutrition, and then also a dietetic internship, which we have to do to become even qualified to sit for what they call the RD exam, which is registered dietitian exam. Even though I did all that, I really didn't feel equipped to truly help people prevent and manage their disease, So I did that, and through that process, I became more, I felt comfortable and capable of really starting to use different tools between, the tools and the testing and what we did and how we use it to prevent and manage disease. So that's kind of the path it took me on. And then I've used it and actually has transformed my own life. And not only my life, but I felt, I've seen it transform family members and my people that I work with on a regular basis. So it's just phenomenal. I mean, the power of nutrition and food, I just absolutely love.
Yeah, no, I think that's a very important thing that all of us need to know and really practice, especially for our kids. Because even for me, so my background with food was I was highly allergic for a certain amount of years, not my whole life, but at some point. And yeah, just the frustration, I totally get it with the medication after medication. And you're slowly just like, well, why is this not working? If I'm on all this stuff, this medication is supposed to do this and it's not improving. And so I totally get what that feels like. And just feeling like you're in this constant cycle of just not healing. And it wasn't until after all of this that I even understood what each food is like meant to do, growing up, for me, my mom would just tell me like, oh, just eat fruits and vegetables because it's good for you. But it didn't necessarily click to me until I'm like, well, this does this. This is good for this. You know what I mean? So I think if we really just understood more of that, if that became more common knowledge, then I feel like more and more people would be like, okay, that's why I need to eat that item, not just because, it just tastes sweet or whatever, if it's blueberries.
Right.
Yeah. And watching your parent, with their conditions slowly get worse, I totally understand that aspect too, because my mom's ex-husband, he has been ill for many, many years, from like dialysis to medication. And I mean, it's just even a miracle that he's still alive, even after all the things these doctors have put him through. And I feel like too, like when it's an elderly family member or like a senior family member, they almost feel like they have no choice but to follow their doctor, right? They're like, well, this is what's expected because I'm older. I remember having this conversation with another guest where we were like, your age shouldn't have to define the status of your health. Like just because you're 50, 60, 70 does not mean you should be in a wheelchair on high blood pressure medication and, just miserable.
Absolutely.
Like you should not. Like I've seen very healthy and active seniors. And to me, it's almost like, wow, like why don't we see more of this? And there is a reason, because
absolutely
there's a disconnect with our health system and just the knowledge that's out there about holistic health. So I think, I feel like if we could really implement this more, especially with our seniors, we would see such a drastic change and less, patients in care homes that are just suffering. Like it's really hard to see,
It is. It's absolutely disheartening. And what's fascinating, that through all the different, years of practicing my own nutrition private practice, and after having all that advanced training and just kind of seeing how things are playing out, I see repeatedly the same things. Typically you do that. You see the same things happen over and over. And, a lot of times here's what's happening is inflammation is the underlying condition. So now we know heart disease is inflammatory, diabetes is inflammatory, obesity is inflammatory. Now you talk about, autoimmune conditions and depression and anxiety and skin issues. Really, everything is inflammatory. Inflammation is at the heart, and then when you talk about inflammation, the immune system becomes overloaded. Well, now you just opened up the door to more issues, which, we can always talk about another time. But so really it becomes a cascade event. So what I have learned is, people often, here's what happens. People wake up one day and go, oh my gosh, I'm falling apart. I have all these issues. I don't feel good. I feel like crap. What the heck happened to me? At this point, there's multiple issues, signs, symptoms, often medications, unfortunately. Like you said, nothing's being resolved. It's actually worse. Now the quality of life has been impacted, and now it's been going on for many years. So all of a sudden a person gets a diagnosis, but it didn't develop overnight. It's actually a combination of years of this happening.
Yes.
And guess what? Inflammation is usually at the base of it.
Yeah. And people don't take it as serious, I feel like, as they should. Like, people hear inflammation, like, oh, it's just inflammation. But I'm like, you have no idea like why this is so important to focus on. To me, yeah, like it is the root of many different issues. And it's like, when I think back on even like my own health and just like seeing with my mom, I'm just like, dang, like I really wish there's more holistic health information out there, you know, like versus just, oh, this medication is supposed to do this, and just, it may or may not work. We'll see.
Right.
Like it's just bizarre. Yeah.
You're absolutely right. And the amazing thing is, a couple years ago, I actually became certified in this process of using this food sensitivity testing. It's the gold standard in it. Now, there's a lot of different things on the market, but they're not considered a valid and reliable test. So this is really the gold standard, and it is valid and reliable. It was developed by immunologists, a team of dietitians for the protocol. I mean, it's been used for like 20 some years. It's just phenomenal. I learned about it 20 years ago, but I did not start using it until maybe like 3 to 4 years ago. So I personally have seen amazing results, not only with myself, but with the people I've worked with, and then countless other dietitians who are qualified in the process have seen amazing results. I mean, we're talking people get their life back, restored health. So, I mean, it's just amazing. So about 2 years ago, I first tested myself.
Wow. Okay.
And before I did, I had symptoms of, like everybody else, but we don't attribute it to food sensitivities. We attribute it to, I'm getting old and stressed, and this is the way life is. Like you said,
we just accept it. Yeah.
Right. It becomes your new normal, even though it's not healthy. It's just the new normal. The continuous weight gain, the brain fog, oftentimes anxiety, irritability, stomach distension, bowel changes, sleep disturbances, pain. Pain is huge, especially with the big dependency on opiates.
Right. Oh, it makes me cringe when I hear someone, they're like, oh, I was prescribed Vicodin for this. I'm like, oh, please don't say that around me. Like, it just kills me. Like, because I like have this envisioned, like, okay, like you're taking this, and like, what isn't wreaking havoc on in your body once it enters? Like, the last time I took anything remotely close to that was because I had surgery on my left ankle. But okay, have you heard about aromatherapy actually working as an alternative to opioids?
That's awesome. Yes, I love it. It's amazing, the power of a scent.
Yes. And like, even for myself, I have a diffuser back here, and I'm constantly blasting lavender all day.
That's phenomenal. Yeah, I love it. And they're natural essential oils. So that's, awesome.
Yeah.
So, I mean, what my own personal story was all those things. My body transformed. I lost weight. My skin never looked better, not even as a teenager. I never had amazing glowing skin like that. Because the skin is an organ, and it usually reflects to our inner, beings,
right?
What's going on inside. So the skin was great. My mind cleared up, no more brain fog. Like, that's often a symptom. You start to think, I guess I'm just not with it, but brain fog cleared up, which is common as a food sensitivity sign and symptom. Weight dropped, lost inches. I went from a size 12 curvy jean to size 6 skinny jean.
Oh my gosh, congrats. That's amazing.
Thank you. And so oftentimes people usually think I have a weight issue. Actually, it's an inflammatory condition.
I've been getting my inflammatory stuff under control over these last couple of years through CBD. That's what's been helping me, and me and my dogs take it. So we're definitely, I have to bring this up because we're talking about like gut stuff. My dog, she actually was diagnosed with IBS a while ago.
Wow.
And she just everything that you could ever try. She was just constantly having bowel issues. It was a nightmare at one point because it just was worse and worse. And all they did was keep giving her medication. It was a steroid. And it wasn't until one day I was like, you know what? I'm going to stop giving you the steroid. You're going to eat all natural food. So no more kibble, and just literally just this natural food, and with your CBD drops in it. She's doing great. Her hair is great back. She hasn't had any diarrhea problems. And I'm just like, see, like we get into this fear-based mindset, like what we were talking about earlier. We're just kind of like, oh, we need to depend on this or this to cure. When I literally just tested it on my own dog and I was like, we're not doing this anymore because she was gaining weight. You could tell something was off with her. And I'm like, it's the steroid. There's nothing else, especially if I don't give her anything extra other than like her food. So, because I tried doing, taking away the medication, but she was still on kibble that was still making her sick. So she had to go the all natural with no medication to really heal. So that's why when you talk about, the power of nutrition and how food is medicine, I cannot like say that enough to people. I'm like, this is all a gift. Like, I wish my whole lawn was just food. Like,
I know, right? I always say that, like, if we all, just grew our own food, we'd be good. It's like, what's the point of having grass? It's just pointless.
Right. You're just maintaining it for what? Like, you might as well.
For what reason? Exactly. You're so right on point. I love that. Well, and that's the amazing thing is all these conditions are inflammatory. And that's the other thing, IBS. Yeah. A lot of people struggle with the IBS and, we link it to stress. That's what it's linked to.
Right.
But now we know there's a brain-gut connection going on.
Our second brain. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And so we know that inflammation and stress, yes, they make it all worse, but, it gets us to become a cycle. So now that we know there's the gold standard, in testing, there's 170 items that are tested. Mm-hmm. And a lot of them are considered, the most commonly eaten foods, among other things. Even people can be reactive to things like acetaminophen, which is in Tylenol, and ibuprofen, that's in Advil, and salicylic acid, which is found in aspirin.
Wow.
So there's a lot of things. And then there's food colors. And a lot of people don't realize, a lot of times with ADD, there's sensitivity to food colorings.
Right.
And then the inflammatory process, it does affect the mind. So a lot of times I get people that come to me and they have several underlying conditions. And oftentimes there's anxiety and depression present among gut issues.
Right. Yep. I can attest to that. I know exactly what that's like. And until I did my overhaul, and I think it's really important too, if you just, kind of take a walk down memory lane. Well, okay, when did this start? What was I doing at that time? What was my diet like? It's not until you really dissect all those different time frames where then you're like, aha, now I can say like, well, I wasn't eating very well during this time. So how could I expect my body to function properly if I'm not giving it the right fuel to work right? So it's so important. Just be aware,
Right. And the other amazing thing is oftentimes people think dietitians have like magic powers. So they say, well, tell me what to eat. So
it's like, it's more than that.
It is more than that. It is. So like, for example, a lot of times, we think of healthy food, right? Oh, just whole foods. Well, typically, yeah. I mean, if you're eating processed foods and you want to eat clean and start there. And actually, that's why I just designed a program that I launched that was to support people through that process of like, small changes in their diet and lifestyle to really get to the big goal, because I found people that were not successful through the process or who gave up on the protocol didn't have down the basic foundation to the healthy lifestyle and diet.
Right.
So I designed this program, and actually, because it's like the beta version right now, I'm shaping it as I get feedback back to what is needed. And I'm finding that it's a lot of the basics that just what I thought was happening, but the basics that people don't have down, which is why they're not successful in their changes. But in terms of going back to the kinds of foods people should be eating, so without really testing, we really don't know, because even I've seen people come back reactive to things like turmeric, which is supposed to be anti-inflammatory.
Wow. That's crazy.
So, right. And so it is anti-inflammatory, but because everybody's body is different, we truly don't know without testing. And that's where, if someone's experiencing different signs and symptoms, that's then a good next step, because a lot of conditions can be treated just with diet alone. So for example, I've seen cholesterol slashed in half. Blood pressure improves.
Yeah.
Energy goes through the roof. I mean, amazing energy. So I see it as inflammation results in fatigue, because it's like the body's sick all the time. It's just, yes.
And you can tell, like, I mean, for me, like, that's how I knew, because now I'm managing my inflammation very well. Because yeah, I did have issues with gut allergies, all those things, right? Eczema, that's another sign of inflammation. And
Yes.
that honestly, like that was like the ultimate sign, like, okay, something's gotta like change because something inside is going on. You know what I mean? So I really think like if you can just like tap into like, okay, like just having that body awareness and just really applying all the different tools that we have, then you really start to see the results. And yeah, I'm a perfectionist. I'm just like, okay, what can I do for my health? What can I, give to myself to, get all these things out of the way? Because all the symptoms you're listing, I dealt with that for years and it was just awful. And it's like how, like, because it affects your mental health so much. That's why I think right now, if there are a lot of unhealthy people in this world, and then you tack on COVID on top of that, it's like, no wonder why people are going crazy everywhere, because they were already dealing with so much prior to what's going on. So
Right. Absolutely right. The threshold becomes so high for our stress that on the body, mental and physical health, that it's just breaking point. Yes.
Right.
Well, and the inflammation. So, I mean, even pain. So pain is worse with stress. And then the pain factor, that all improves usually depending what the source of the pain is. But like if it's joints, aches, those kinds of things, muscular, arthritis, those all improve through this process.
I agree. I also was diagnosed with arthritis and carpal tunnel on my left. I'm telling you, there's not one. I've had a lot of diagnoses over my years, but it's just amazing to see, like, literally I got rid of all of them with holistic health. Like, if my chart is clear, it's like as if it never happened. And doctors are like, what did you do? And I'm like, not take medication. I'll tell you. Like,
good for you. Good for you.
They tried to tell me, thank you. They tried to tell me I needed surgery on my wrist to get rid of the carpal tunnel. Cause they were like, we don't think this is going to improve. You have arthritis in your shoulder and blah, 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 blah. And and you know how it is when you get diagnoses like that, it puts you in a very like depressive mind state. You're like, well, why is my body doing this? For me, I just felt almost like how and why. Like, I don't even do some extreme sport. Like, how did this happen? Yes. Right. I've been working at a desk for almost a decade now, like, because I've been, an entrepreneur for so long, but still I was like, there's no way that I'm this sick. Like, something's got to give. So I can definitely attest that once you get that inflammation under control, so many things are going to clear out and you won't have to deal with any of it sooner than later. So
yes, absolutely. And the interesting thing is I retested this summer. And the reason I retested is because I was noticing that my sinuses were getting clogged up and I couldn't breathe. I'd wake up in the middle of the night and I'm like, I can't breathe. I'm like stuffed up. And I'm going, wow, this is interesting. All of a sudden, out of nowhere, now we know stress makes inflammation worse. We know, different things change in the body. So whenever there's a high stress level, that's usually when people experience more signs and symptoms because they go hand in hand. I retested. And once I followed the protocol and cleared out, those things that were triggering me, because the goal is to reintroduce them back. And I work with people to go through the protocol, reintroduce them back at the right time, go through the process and identify what's going on with them. We look at signs and symptoms, we track their meal intake, we do all those things together. So when I did it myself, don't you know, within 3 to 4 days, my whole sinuses cleared up, I can breathe clearly.
Wow.
So think about all the people, diagnosed with sleep apnea that need an apparatus to sleep. And now we don't know which one came first. Is it the sleep apnea or the weight gain? Because the weight gain contributes to sleep apnea and vice versa.
Yeah, that was another one. I was told I may need to use a machine. I'm like, what? I'm telling you, like, my years of like medical, it's like, it just goes on and on. So that's why I think that's why holistic health knowledge is just such a gift, because not only, first of all this stuff is expensive. All these different, not just the medications, but just, if you have procedures you need to go to, if the medical equipment, it's a lot. So it's like, why let yourself go through all of that, the frustration, the disappointment of not healing, when you could just go to the root of the issue and just knock it all out. Like,
Agree.
your
Exactly.
sinus issues, they probably would have told you, oh, you may need surgery to like to clear up your nasal pathway, whatever. Like,
Yes.
I'm sure that would have been something they would have said later on if it had improved in several months or something, you know?
Right, right. And absolutely on point. When I'm heartbroken when I hear young girls that, constantly are put on birth control medication to regulate their hormone levels. Now we know they don't need it. Now we know that hormones are off when there's inflammation in the body. Once we bring that down, the hormones regulate themselves.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. Like, and it's funny because like I remember that as a young girl, I knew people that were like, oh, my acne is really bad or whatever, so I need to go on birth control. And I remember just bringing that up to my mom at that time. And my mom's very, very modest, and we didn't talk about that. Sexual education just was not a topic that came up. And so she was like, what? She was like, why would you need to be on birth control? And like, of course she thought the worst. I'm like, no. It's just because every other girl at school is talking about this. So it just became a thing. Like everyone just thought and normalized that this is how you regulate your hormones. So that's why if I ever have a daughter, trust me, like no one is taking any of that stuff. Like I've used birth control in the past, but no, like never again. I actually had a guest recently that talks about natural birth control, like just ways to just tracking, how your body's doing and looking at the calendar. And that's just the way to do it, without having to use external, methods. So yeah, it's crazy. Like there's just so many things we're debunking right now and people are like, what right now?
I know, it's fascinating. So I love hearing that you're sharing the message about all these, inspirational ways to empower people with their health, because that's definitely my mission, is to let people know there's so much that we can do naturally.
Right.
We don't have to resort, like you said, to these, invasive procedures and medication. At least, I feel that diet, the least invasive thing, should be the first line of defense, because oftentimes that's going to solve it.
Right. And you know what? I think another reason why some people just go along with, the medication is because they're like, well, I don't want to change how I eat. It's almost like, well, why should it? Because it technically is more work for people. They're like, well, now I got to change my lifestyle. Now I got to, it's hard to decondition, let's just say,
right,
because we have been so conditioned to just listen to your doctor. They know what's best. That's it. And so for someone like me who's used to just, following the rules, it is very much crazy that now I'm like literally the opposite of like, hold on, let me do my research first before I just, accept what you're telling me. And to be honest, I see my naturopath and talk to my naturopath way more than a Western medicine doctor anyway. So it's like, I just don't even surround myself around that.
Yeah. And that's a good point that you brought up. I think sometimes too, people don't know where to turn for the natural, approach, because I find people that find me, they were either led to me or somehow they were connected to me. It was really through their own, way of trying to seek out a natural alternative. In most cases, it's not from a doctor. And actually, some people were convinced not to go that route from a doctor, which is really disheartening. It's like, wow,
Right. Yeah. No, you know what? That reminds me of another little story, is like when I was still transitioning from, because I was still very much like going to my main doctor, and then I had my naturopath. And I remember I was telling, I think it was a medical assistant before I actually saw my doctor, was asking, they ask you questions, like, okay, so what's going on with this and this? And I told them some of the things I was doing on the natural side. And they were like, what? Why are you doing that? Like, you're going to make yourself more sick. Like they were like shaming me for listening to do the natural way. And if I wasn't strong enough to be like, you don't know what you're talking about, because clearly it's working for me, I know my body. And if I just listened to them and just been a sheep, I would have still been in the same condition with no improvement. So,
and likely worse off.
Right.
You're absolutely right. And I'm so glad. I love when I hear people like you take charge of their health, because, obviously if we're not our own advocate, nothing changes, right? Who else? Exactly. Right. I mean, so like if someone wants to work with someone that's more natural approach, naturopath is what you mentioned. That's a good point. They're usually more of a holistic approach. Functional medicine doctors, functional nutrition, something with the word functional nutrition or medicine usually is in that realm.
Yes.
Not all dietitians are the same, though. I must say they don't all have the same philosophy, training, background.
Right.
So that is something good to ask in terms of, the philosophy and training, and get to talk to somebody. I think it's really important to talk to your healthcare provider, practitioner, or get to know their approach before, we're working with them, because like you said, if they're not supportive and you don't jive, then it's definitely not a good fit.
Right.
That's that you brought up.
Yeah. And, honestly, like ever since I got really more in tune with, the holistic side of things and sharing it with friends and family, it only makes me like just so overjoyed that I even came across all of this. I was like, it's okay if I had to be the one that had to endure all of this to then bring this information to you guys. So now you don't have to deal with it, because I swear, like I was almost in worse conditions than my own parents. Like, it was just like,
oh, wow,
how did they, like they were just always just like, how is that happening? So it's just amazing now to see how much of a difference it's made, and seeing everyone that that's starting to implement these things be so much happier, healthier, and like my parents never looked younger. So it's really just so nice to see. And I only wish I knew all this stuff sooner, like it.
Right.
As long as, you just maintain and you just spread the awareness to whoever you can now. Like we're just making a difference where we can. So.
Right. And well, a lot of times too, people, I don't know how it is in your state, but I know where we are in PA, a lot of people have coverage for nutrition. So a lot of times if people have Blue Cross Blue Shield type of plan, it's reciprocal anywhere where you go. So it might be in one state, but usually you can cross boundaries and it's reciprocated. So they cover nutritional counseling. And so if you find somebody like with my background who's functional nutrition trained and approach with the testing, then, you kind of get the best of both worlds, but you get the benefit of your insurance covering it, because I am in network with my insurance companies, several of them actually.
Wow, that's amazing. Yeah. That way you're reaching more people, and more people can just finally learn the truth. I think that's why I'm just kind of like, you guys need to just like, please pay attention. Like, this is very important stuff.
Yes, it is. It is. And actually, I'm looking to form group programs for next year. So for people that it wasn't like reachable, or they often said, it was like a time or money barrier, the group program would make it more of, well, it's through, video, secure video for my portal that I use for my practice. And then the group program, so that it's something that can be done from anywhere, basically at any time, as well as, I'm excited. And then the group, makes it more accessible, so that it's usually, costs less for a person than a one-on-one.
Yeah. Yeah. And, it's kind of like feeling like you're a part of a support group, you're just like, like, because a lot of people, especially when it's something that's not very well known or they don't know enough about, it feels almost like scary to do it by themselves. So when they see like, oh, wow, like this person from, this side of the country and that side, maybe even international, and we're all coming together and just being there for each other, that's amazing. Because I know for me, I was literally the only one going through what I was going through in my world at that time. Like, there was not one. And at least now, like, because I have so much experience in all of this, when I do see it amongst, other people or just someone I've met briefly, I always, drop little nuggets of information. I'm like, please just check this out. You'll thank me later. Even if I don't see you again, just know that I'm just sharing this with you so you can reap the benefits as well. So I'm excited for your group. I think that's beautiful. And so many people, will be touched by that. And just,
thank you.
Yeah, it's just, this is like just, a way to serve our communities, just to give back. And it costs nothing just to share this information, and just to, I guess for me, I would just, in a perfect world, we would all just be eating healthy, organic, fresh food, and we would all not have all these crazy symptoms, and pharmaceutical companies would not be racking in all this money to, that's just causing us problems. So I'm just like, one day, at least we're shifting. I'm proud of where we are. We're making a difference. So we just got to keep on fighting the good fight, I guess.
Yeah, definitely. And so like the other thing is too, people I think get discouraged. Like when you mentioned some people just don't want to put the energy, the time in. And I mean, I get it. Like life happens, there's obligations, there's stressors, there's things going on, other priorities. But, when you think about your health is your biggest asset, like you can't work, you can't take care of your loved ones, you can't enjoy life.
Right.
you don't want somebody having to, have to wash you, bathe you, take care of you, feed you. I mean, I worked in long-term care. I saw that, happen in person. It's just awful to see someone have to feel like they lost their dignity and have some. So if you think of your health as your biggest asset, which it is, and you value that, you have to realize that the health, once you lose it, you really, it's hard to get it back. I mean, and these things that happen over time, it's the same way with interventions. If we do little things over time, they do add up. Like, I'm still working on things. It's not like I've reached a certain point and I don't do anything either. I still have to. Yeah, exactly. So, I mean, that's just something I would say to someone who's saying, oh my gosh, but where do I start? What do I do? Start small. Where can you improve what you're doing? I tell people, if you're eating out at, fast food drive-through, every day, cut it down. If you're eating out multiple times, cut it down to, whatever is reasonable for you. Try to cook at home, real food. If you can't do organic, just pick the foods from the dirty dozen, what you can eat. Start eating cleaner. I mean, if just little things like that, stress management, mindfulness. I mean, these are all things I've incorporated into my group program that I'm running now. So like, if you have any questions, you can always reach out to me too, and I'll try to direct you. But a lot of times, if you check with your insurance company, you can find out your benefits for nutritional counseling. A lot of people don't even know they've got these free sessions. It's use it or lose it.
Wow. Yeah, no, that's good. That's definitely good to know. And I'm sure everyone will probably look into their insurance now to see like what they're not applying, and it's, at their disposal. So might as well. Yeah,
definitely. And I mean, with, not like I'm just trying to put a plug in for myself here.
No.
But
oh my gosh. No, you're doing amazing work. You should be talking and bragging about it.
Thank you. But just because people just don't know this is an option for them. So I want to put it out there that, if this is something that you're like thinking about and going, I need to do something, I don't know where to start, it's overwhelming, you can definitely reach out to me. I'll figure out where you're at, and then I can direct you. And then if you're looking to work with someone, I do work with people through this secure video. So I really can work with people all over the country.
Yeah.
And then your insurance can be, used as a benefit. So that's just something I wanted to, let people know about.
Yeah, definitely. And I'm sure there will be people contacting you, because that's definitely the biggest question mark, is like, where do I get started? And literally just take step one. That's it.
Right.
Like, once you get going, and for me, especially as I was seeing the results, I became obsessed with just improving to the point where now, like, I mean, for years, I can't even count how many years, I had horrible anxiety. I had the worst insomnia. It was just, gut issues, could not, literally everything under the sun. And now it's just like, that's why I feel like I've been reborn, because I feel like I don't even know that old life anymore. I'm just like, what was going on? Like, it was just crazy. But I mean, I just want people to know too, it is possible. Like, you don't have to stick with what you've been diagnosed with, and you don't have to just stay in this state of like maintaining your symptoms, there's always room to improve. You just have to get it started. So
exactly.
And we have people like you that can clarify, all those things, and feeling like they can get that support from someone that understands this on a professional level. So yeah, that's
thank you.
Yeah.
And if you're interested in doing something like this, I just want people to know that, definitely reach out to me, because if you want to, you can get on my website and get a free 3-day meal plan trial. And then you can also do a 3-day anti-inflammatory ebook, which will add you to my newsletter. You'll stay connected with me. I'll let you know when I'm running my next group program. And that way, it's something that you'll stay in touch with me. My goal is to definitely run them next year and start with, hopefully one in the early year, in the year, and then just kind of see how that goes and go from there. So hopefully, I can hear from you and get feedback and continue to provide different services to meet everyone where they are. That's pretty much where I'm at right now. So I'm really excited about that.
Oh, that's great. Yeah. Okay. Share with our listeners what your website is and how they can connect with you with, social media and all the things.
Thank you. So my website is nutritionvitalityatwork.com, and it's the word "at" spelled out, not the symbol, nutritionvitalityatwork.com. And I'm on Facebook under Nutrition Vitality, Facebook/Nutrition Vitality. And I do have a group. I'll be honest, I was debating whether to archive it. I'm kind of not sure where I'm going with it. So for now, I'm still on Facebook, but I really would like to connect with people through my email so that I'm not having to rely on Facebook as a third party.
Yeah, that's another that's another thing with the censorship and everything. So
yes, exactly. Yeah. So they're not really promoting the natural alternative holistic health, which should not be alternative. It should be the approach.
Right.
As you and I believe there's no other better way. I mean, that is the way. So to support the body, I mean, it really supports the body naturally. And to me, how can it be alternative? That should be the way.
Right. That reminds me, a guest told me before, like, it shouldn't be called alternative medicine. It's the original medicine.
Yes.
Like, yes, that is it.
Yes. Love it. I love it.
What do we do before, all these medicines and pharmaceutical like protocols and everything else? So,
exactly. Yeah. Exactly.
Love it. I swear I could talk on and on about this type of stuff. It just really fuels me up because
yes,
it's just life-changing. So everyone, I know if you've been listening to this episode, you may have a lot of questions, but Claudia is here to clear all that up for you. And
thank you.
Reach out to her, send us any messages you may have in the Facebook group. And yeah, we'll catch you all next time. Thank you all so much.
Thank you.